Well, good evening and welcome to Queer News Tonight, the world's first and only LGBTQ plus daily evening news. It's time to queer up the news. It is 8 p.m. Tuesday, April 12th, 2022, and we are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we're going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
This is the world's first live daily LGBTQ evening news show, literally out of the closet and into the headlines on Queer News Tonight with Al Ferguson.
Good evening, world, and thank you for joining Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only unedited live LGBTQ plus evening news show. Whatever happens here, you will see it. Queer News Tonight is supported by viewers like you. We are part of the partnership between Happening Out News Network and Hotspots Magazine. Hotspots is celebrating 36 years of the LGBTQ plus experience. We bring you the best of LGBTQ plus news, entertainment, and support of our community.
I'm your anchor at Queer News Tonight, Al Ferguson. Let's welcome anchor Sobourney Barnes, a true South Florida native, born and raised here in Broward County, to parents who found joy in public service. So is it any surprise she began working at SunServe, a local nonprofit agency that serves the LGBTQ plus IA community? A graduate of Florida Atlantic University for her bachelor degree and Florida International University for her master's, she has been an advocate for LGBTQIA plus youth for almost a decade through her work at SunServe. Welcome, Sobourney.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here as always, Al. Let's welcome Mark Kent, the Executive Director of the Gay Men's Chorus of South Florida. He's a personal friend of one of SunServe's founders, Jim LaPresti.
Love Jim.
He's responsible for leading the business side of the chorus as it continues to evolve in being a regional asset and national influence on both the LGBTQ and choral arts movement. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you. It's really terrific to be here and to spend the evening with you.
Mark, before we move on, I want to give an opportunity for the Gay Men's Chorus. A big gala is coming in May. Tell us a little bit about what the chorus is going to be doing.
I'll take that opportunity. On May 15th, we're having our annual fundraising brunch, which is a really popular event that draws around 450, 500 people. We'll be at the Westin Fort Lauderdale Beach Resort. And our theme this year is Let's Misbehave. So it's brunch, it's cocktails, it's auctions, and it's a huge amount of fun. Of course, lots of singing.
Yeah, you got Dan Rios' attention instantaneously when Let's Misbehave was said. We will be there and we will be doing that. Sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, and and speaking of Dan Rios, let's welcome Dan Rios. He is the director of LGBTQ plus marketing for the Greater Miami Convention and Visitors Bureau, the official destination marketing organization for Greater Miami and Miami Beach. Joining the Marketing and Tourism Division in 2002, Dan is considered one of America's top experts on LGBTQ plus travel and tourism. Welcome, Dan.
What a nice introduction. Thank you so much. So great to be here. We are the reporters for Queer News Tonight, and this evening we begin with the Queer News headlines. The LGBTQ plus community in South Florida and across America is diverse. Our community across the world is vast, and here are the bullet points of the Queer News for today, Tuesday, April 12th.
Well, we begin by queering up the USA View. TikTok suspends the HRC for 2 days over saying gay. Recently, a TikTok user posted a video showing a teenager driving past the Welcome to Florida billboard signs and yelling, "Gay." The HRC responded with yellow and blue hearts and the word gay. Well, TikTok suspended the HRC for the comment after it was reported by users. The HRC appealed the decision and their account was restored a couple of days later. A TikTok spokesperson told The Advocate magazine, quote, "We restored the comment as soon as we were made aware of this error and will continue to provide ongoing training to help our moderators make consistent and accurate decisions. We are proud that the LGBTQ plus community members choose to create and share on TikTok, and our policies seek to protect and empower these voices on our platform." Watch what happened.
Nothing. That's suspicious. That's weird.
TikTok, are you serious? You are literally banning us from doing life-saving work for LGBTQ plus folks. Why was this a violation in the first place? Not being able to upload videos really hinders our ability to create visibility and education for LGBTQ plus topics. So our question to you, TikTok, is how does the word gay violate your community guidelines? After we saw that there was a comment that violated TikTok's community guidelines, we submitted an appeal. Now, though TikTok did appeal the comment very quickly within 8 minutes, we could not upload videos after the appeal was made. So yes, it was a quick appeal process, but we shouldn't even have to appeal comments like this. How can we make sure that this doesn't happen again, not only for our page, but for others?
Well, there's the right question. How do we make sure that this doesn't happen? Now, first, before we talk about this, there's a tremendous amount of irony after what we've watched in Florida for the last 90 days, that you don't say gay, and apparently that's true in TikTok too.
Yeah, right.
What do y'all think about what we watched here? The word flags, and poop, you're brought down.
I think it's interesting, but it also brings to mind that there has to be education and further oversight of the folks who are moderating TikTok or any other social media platform, because just because a word says gay, and obviously it was the trolls who were saying they can't say this, like you shouldn't just automatically go with what's being said. Check it out, verify that it is actually violating whatever rules you have before you shut down, like she said, a website or more so a social media page that gives life-saving.
You know, Mark, I can't help but draw attention to you and what you do. You represent the gay men's chorus of South Florida. This easily could happen to you, and it has no reasonable intent, but we're just so on guard constantly that TikTok does this. When you hear this story, what do you think?
Well, you know, I have a couple of reactions. We're living in a time and an era right now where the word gay, literally that expression, is really highly sensitized. And when we think of the volume of language that makes its way across social media platforms, I know that there's going to be a good percentage of that is focused on hate with gay in a negative context as well. I know it's pulled down and it feels like it was because it was gay, but also, you know, there's the potential that it's there to protect because it could have been gay-based hate speech as well. I think 8 minutes is a pretty good turnaround time. What it makes me more aware is the broader social context of we are all needing to stand up right now and just defend a label for who we are, which is gay. And that's unfortunate that we're at that point, so that when something like this happens, it's just like adding gasoline onto a fire.
You know, and Sobourney, to the same kind of question that I'm curious about, you work with LGBTQ youth all of the time. That's your principal job at SunServe. And bullying is a principal issue that your the participants in the SunServe youth program face. How do you balance the issues of free speech and bullying and the hate speech that takes place? Any thoughts in terms of how those balances work, where we can do a better job? And the trolls are going to be trolls.
As they are. Like I said earlier, it's really going to be a lot of education that's needed, because a lot of the hate that's spewed out there is purely based on ignorance and outdated ideas and assumptions about people and about certain groups of people. And with our youth, at least, we make sure that they fully understand what is the difference between hate speech and just being, for lack of a better term, a teenager.
Right. Yeah, when I'm looking at this story in particular, I find it a little more comforting that it wasn't the original post that said gay, but actually a comment. So I think, to Mark's point, it's indicative that they were trying to protect, perhaps, you know, a reply on the initial comment. So, and I think I agree with you. It was a very quick turnaround to actually get it back up.
All right. Well, we're going to continue in this theme of talking about what's going on in Florida with some news about Disney.
Yeah, and you know, I think it's time that we queer up trans rights. Transgender Disney Heir comes out condemning Florida. Recently, Queer News Tonight reported on an email sent by Sherry and Roy P. Disney condemning Florida's Don't Say Gay bill and promising to match donations to the HRC, saying they were disappointed since they have a transgender child. Now, Charlie Cora Disney, the trans non-binary great-grandchild of Disney Company co-founder Roy O. Disney, has spoken out. The 30-year-old high school science teacher wishes they had done more to help, saying, quote, "I don't call senators or take action. I felt like I could be doing more," end quote. So it's very, very interesting because, you know, again, we have an opportunity here for the trans community to have a voice. And what a responsibility to carry the name like Disney and have the opportunity to step forward as a trans voice in this battle. But what if you're not the activist type?
Yeah, what do you do? And along those same veins, does it surprise you at all that in the last 48 hours, since this news has been widely reported, it has just been a firestorm in social media of connecting, almost like gaslighting, connecting the word Disney, meaning a person, not a corporation, a human being, and transgender. And that so many people on both sides are using the connection like a mathematical equation. Disney plus transgender equals whatever conclusion you want to come to. But the far radical left is doing it, and the far radical right is doing it. Does that surprise any of us that that's going on
No.
that the transgender person is being used because their name is Disney?
Not at all.
Yeah, it's politics, you know, and nothing surprises me, particularly when it comes to the extreme sides of the equation. And again, it's part of that weight and that responsibility. The name Disney has got impact.
Yeah.
It does. And Disney, in and of itself, they are doing more than they have in the last decade to actually uplift the community. So, of course, you have the far left who are trying to publicize it as, yay, more gay Disney, and then the far right saying, oh, no, this is horrible. And just like you said, it's politics. It's always going to be somehow politicized, but I can only imagine what's going on for Charlie and just the weight that they probably have on their shoulders now.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
And no, like you mentioned, Al, it is a formula, and I think that formula of the extremes on left and on right is what's working to fuel this.
Yeah.
And the sad part is that what's happening in the center is not being discussed or listened to.
Yeah, yeah.
So.
That's certainly true. And let's talk about Disney some more.
More about Disney. So talking about politics, we're going to quote politics. New reports reveals Disney gave $190,000 to Republicans before Don't Say Gay. Campaign records released yesterday show that Disney donated $190,000 to Florida Republicans in the weeks before they started speaking out against Don't Say Gay. $125,000 was donated to the Republican Party of Florida. $100,000 was on January 11th, and an additional $25,000 on January 26th. 6 days after the Parental Rights and Education Bill, or the Don't Say Gay bill, was introduced. They also donated $65,000 to a fund that helps elect Republican senators in the state. After Disney spoke out against the bill, 3 Republicans returned their donations, totaling $8,000. One of those Republicans was the bill's sponsor, Representative Joe Harding. Now, you know I have things to say. I've had things to say for weeks in regards to Disney and their response to Don't Say Gay before and after. Very much after, it was that, let's try to clean it up, like we did a bad thing. But then before, you knew what was going on in your state where you are the largest job provider. You knew this was happening. You didn't do anything. You sponsored these people. And the person who was one of the co-sponsors, Joe Harding, like, no, Disney, you shouldn't have done that. But I'm happy that those people gave back at least $8,000. So, I mean, Disney's got to be good for something for Republicans, I guess.
You know, it's very interesting to me because at the height of our beginning to report on Don't Say Gay and the Stop Woke Act, but specifically Don't Say Gay, was right around the 24th, 25th, and 26th of January. On the exact same days when we were recognizing, my goodness, this is unbelievably, from our perspective, have gigantic ramifications on the LGBTQ community. Disney was hearing that. They were starting to hear from our community in Florida and really all over the country. And they still contributed money. That's what's so terrible of the optics here. Right in the heat of that, they contributed this money.
Well, and I think to some degree of fairness, Disney donates a lot of money to both parties.
Right.
So we want to be fair in that. And that is a machine and a mechanism that's like a train that goes down the track and the processes happen and the money goes out. I think that it would have been wonderful if they'd waved a flag, particularly when that bill was introduced. It could have made a great statement.
Agreed.
But I also have to say that on some level, I feel like Disney's being scapegoated a little bit. In my heart of hearts, the forces that brought this bill to life and then got it through, they still would have won.
Yeah.
You know,
Don't you feel, and I've expressed this at Queer News Tonight so many times, don't you feel that the organization of the radical right, they're just really just kicking our butt? Because this situation, to the point of what you said, they baited everybody into it, and even Disney fell for it. We're giving you some money. Who's Joe Harding? We don't really care. We're supporting him. We're supporting everybody. At the end of the day, this radical position that we're watching now in Florida and being exported every place else, they're just beating us. And until we can figure out how to step up and stand up to this better, they're going to continue to beat us. Don't you? Do you all agree with that, or you don't see it that way?
I think to win a political argument, you couch your position in terms of God, family, and country. And it's hard for anyone to argue with you on those points. And I think you find a lot of controversial topics are well anchored in those areas more strongly by the conservative factions. And we can do a better job about anchoring our positions initially, not defensive.
We need to do a better job of anchoring our position that we want to do. Joe Harding is ground zero. There's no way, you can't wash Joe Harding away. There's just no way to do it. His words at the Capitol were just unbelievable. The other thing that I have to make sure that we do at Queer News Tonight, we've talked about this repeatedly. Does anybody believe that Disney is a discriminatory organization or they're anti-LGBT? It's impossible to believe or come to that conclusion.
I agree.
They are the largest LGBTQ employer in terms of general verification, the largest LGBTQ employer in the world. The chairman came out and said, we don't really get involved in the politics, and tried to push them back into those words into his mouth as quickly as they came out, and then the whole world fell apart for Disney. And they've been in damage control and damage control and damage control for 2 months. But that is not because they hate the LGBTQ community. They were just stupid. And now they're trying to collect and fix some dumbness. I don't know, it's a very complicated issue. Let's continue by queering up gay culture. Interesting story here. The Navajo Nation seeks to legalize gay marriage, setting off a debate. Navajo Council Delegate Eugene So has sponsored a bill in late March that would repeal or make gender-neutral sections of the Dene Marriage Act, which passed in 2005. This would potentially legalize same-sex marriage for members of the Navajo Nation, one of the nation's largest holdouts. Same-sex Navajo couples who received marriage licenses off the nation are not recognized to be married on the nation, current law states. The Navajo Nation's estimated 173,000 residents are the biggest group of tribal members in the country whose same-sex couples don't enjoy the same rights as straight couples. While the Supreme Court's 2015 ruling stopped states from banning gay marriage, tribal lands follow their own laws. For example, the Cherokee Nation recently upheld their ban on same-sex marriages, although they do honor unions made outside of tribal lands. What do we think about what's going on in the Navajo Nation?
I mean, I think it's amazing, but also a big part of me is kind of stuck on the number of individuals a part of the Navajo Nation, just 100,000 plus. Like, I'm sorry, my heart just breaks.
They don't have the same rights. We've been reporting for the last week what's going on in Tennessee. Navajo, the Navajo Tribal Council is one example of examining the issue of marriage rights. Tennessee is examining whether gay marriage is going to be recognized in the state of Tennessee and withdrawing gay marriage recognition. There just seems to be this issue that our marriage really incites a minority core of people in the country.
I don't know what
It's amazing because so much of that decision by the Navajo Nation, as I understand it, was based on Christian doctrine, and not traditional celebrations of two-spirited people, which were very
and for clarification, two-spirited is a philosophy of many of the native tribes in America, meaning the embracement and acceptance of homosexual is embraced in native culture because of there being two spirits that intertwine with each other.
So it's got to be an ongoing struggle for all of these nations to balance the new belief systems and values that were put in place with traditional belief systems. But at the end of the day, there's the dignity of human right.
Yeah.
And that really, I think, needs to be the core question.
Well, let's do a good story about South Florida.
Yeah, now let's queer up South Florida and Florida. Our favorite moments of 2022 Miami Beach Pride. Watch this.
And this is the Greater Miami Convention and Visitors Bureau. It's one of America's largest and most important LGBTQ plus tourism organizations, led by LGBT community leader Dan Rios. Miami is one of the top LGBTQ destinations in the entire world.
This past weekend, all of South Florida and beyond turned out for Miami Beach Pride. The Happening Out television network was broadcasting from right in front of the iconic Clevelander Hotel, host to the Heat Pride Tea Dance produced by world-famous Jake Resnick. There was an amazing brunch at the spot on Ocean Drive, the Palace, and more. Miami Beach Pride was not only an event for the locals, but a destination event worthy of visitors from around the world.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I got very sunburned. That's why I look this way today.
But I got to tell you, that footage, I mean, you can't buy that footage.
Yeah,
I mean, it really positions the destination well. We are very, very happy of how it turned out, and we just hope that this keeps circulating all around the globe and welcoming people to.
It was very funny on Sunday night, which was really Monday morning. It was late Sunday night. A very good friend of mine in London had sent me a text. I was already asleep, and said, "Oh my gosh, I watched the Miami Beach Pride Parade," and we had opened the Pride Parade with this great aerial drone video of Miami and Miami Beach, and he said, "It's bleak and dark and cold here," and I wish I was in South Florida, and I thought, bing, that's exactly what we are hoping to tell you. You should be here. Exactly.
That's a great line. I wish I were in South Florida.
Right, exactly. It was a lot of fun.
How was the turnout? Do we have a sense as compared to pre-pandemic levels? It looked really robust.
I haven't heard official numbers. Have you heard?
No, not yet, but we're working on that. And we actually take surveys. We do geo-targeting of the space to see how many cell phones actually are in the area. So we're computing all that.
And by the way, in full disclosure, I mean, we're a news show, so we have an integrity in our reporting. Every time at Miami Beach Pride I said the words Dan Rios out loud, I was paid $25. So I have to make sure that in full. No, okay.
No, I do wish I had gone, but also parking and people, but so much fun. I missed a good time.
Well, reach out to me next year. I got you covered on parking. We'll get you there. And we'll get you, okay.
Thank you.
The world has heard this.
Wait,
Like,
did we just learn that Miami Beach Pride is all about Sobourney's parking?
Yes.
Absolutely.
It's about parking. It's about fun.
Pride parking.
It's a big thing in Miami. But next, it's time to report on our partnership with Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church here in Fort Lauderdale. We are broadcasting from our permanent set here at Sunshine in supporting that partnership. Happening Out Television Network broadcasts the largest LGBTQ+ religious live broadcast in the world, as more than 30,000 watch every Sunday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. Watch this.
I'm Gabe Salazar, Artistic Director of the Gay Men's Chorus of South Florida, and Sunshine Cathedral is my queer church.
Well, that is today's news for the LGBTQ+ community on the world's first and only daily LGBTQ+ evening news show. Is our community important to you?
Then help us by liking and subscribing. Ring the bell for updates. Share this news with your friends and family. Post this broadcast in the many groups that you're a member of. Tonight's stories about our community deserve the attention of your family and friends.
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ+ digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support.
And if our community is to grow, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world. This is the only place in the entire world that tells these LGBTQ+ stories in motion and sound. And that is the passion of the Happening Out Television Network and Queer News Tonight. I'm your anchor, Al Ferguson, and on behalf of these LGBTQ+ reporters, the anchors of Queer News Tonight, including Sobourney Barnes, Mark Kent, and Dan Rios, we will see you daily at 8 p.m. But before we end our show, however, we have one final story.
Let's queer up the big interview. Joe Bilancio reveals special highlights of the 2022 Outshine Film Festival Miami edition. Miami is known for its culture, and one of our favorite examples of celebrating that culture is the Outshine LGBTQ+ Film Festival. Visitors and locals alike are invited to join us from April 22nd to May 1st as Outshine brings you the best in LGBTQ+ independent films. The best part, if you don't live locally, you can watch many of the films from the comfort of your home. Get tickets at outshinefilm.com and watch this great interview with Joe Bilancio from Outshine to find out even more. Watch this.
News tonight, we're going to welcome Joe Bilancio from Outshine LGBTQ+ Film Festival. In 1998, the Miami Gay and Lesbian Film Festival began. 10 years later, the Fort Lauderdale Gay and Lesbian Film Festival formed in 2008. Both were brought together under one brand called the Outshine LGBTQ+ Film Festival, underscoring a broad appeal and dynamic multicultural location, in actually 2 locations. Critically and internationally acclaimed, the film festival serves as a platform for numerous premieres and is the largest LGBT cultural arts event in South Florida. Outshine is everything you want in a film festival, inviting, glowing, eclipsing all others before it. Their mission is to inspire, entertain, and educate, encouraging a sense of community through international and cultural diverse film, video, and other media that offer historical and contemporary perspectives on the LGBTQ+ experience. So welcome, Joe, to Queer News Tonight.
Thank you. It's outstanding to be here. Very excited.
You know, when I came down, I've had experience. I've been to many LGBT film festivals around the country. Outshine was unique first and foremost because it is a film festival that really celebrates the entire calendar year because of celebrating in 2 locations. That's very unique. I believe you're the only one in the country that is in 2 cities.
Yeah, thank you for noticing that. Other festivals will have mini festivals, or they'll do things surrounding trans pride, which we also do, but it is nice to service 2 communities. And I don't know people realize the difference in the communities. They are very different, and we try not to just, sort of throw films out there to both markets. We really do separate films in each market to celebrate the diversity.
You know, coming from outside of South Florida, back in the days when I worked with RuPaul's Drag Race, the show, and other kinds of things. A lot of people that are listening to you tonight that'll see you outside of South Florida go, wait, what are you talking about? The north side of Chicago, the south side of Chicago. What is the difference? It's Chicago. Well, in South Florida, that's not the case. Miami-Dade County is very, very different than Fort Lauderdale and Broward County. And the festival this time around, our spring festival, April 22nd to May 1st, celebrates in Miami. Tell us a little bit about what's different between the two festivals.
Yeah. and again, when I say this, there are certainly exceptions, but typically our South Florida audience is very Spanish and Latin, Portuguese, so they love to see those films.
Wait, there's Hispanic people in Miami-Dade County?
A few.
Just a few, okay.
And we celebrate that.
You learn everything.
But that's not all.
Right.
So we don't just show those types of films. We show a broad array of films. And typically South Florida, Miami, likes more, for lack of a better term, artsy, and I don't mean that's necessarily very heavy or, non-commercial, just a very sort of different kind of vibe. Broward tends to like things more American independent, more English language, but they do accept a variety of films as well. So it is, again, when I'm programming for each market, you have to sort of remember what you're programming for and what film works best in which market.
Joe Bilancio is the director of programming for the film festival. So you're really one of the key voices that put it all together. So you're the one that gets all the credit or all of the blame, depending on what year, what season. Interesting. Before we talk about pandemic, let's talk about the two different festivals from the standpoint of you kind of live in between. I understand you're in between South Beach and you're in between Wilton Manors and Wilton Drive. All right, now with that experience, come out and admit it. Which community is better, Miami or Fort Lauderdale?
That's like my favorite child. It's not going to happen. I really do appreciate, and I find myself involved in both communities. So I really do. There are things I appreciate about each, but again, they are different, and it's fun to think sometimes. We'll be sitting in a meeting, and you'll have to remember, wait, is this Miami? Is this Fort Lauderdale? Yeah. And then we do things sort of in between in the off season. Yeah. So we really are trying to focus and make sure we're hitting, and not that we don't want other communities to come, like we'd love for people from Miami to come to Fort Lauderdale.
Joe, I don't know if you know this, but this year in 22 is the midterm elections. I've interviewed all of the gubernatorial candidates this year, and you're ready to run for governor of Florida.
Yeah.
Okay.
Win.
Win. Exactly right. So Outshine's coming up, the Miami edition this spring. We can't wait for the return of the Broward, Fort Lauderdale edition in October. Specifically talking about the film festival, I think one of the other interesting things about our support at Happening On Television Network is that this has been a couple of tough years for the film festival, all of our LGBT 501c3s. But tell us what it's been like for you to be a director of programming for a film festival that is designed to be able to have somebody sit in the dark right next to you. And oh wait, we're talking about film, by the way.
I knew where you were going.
Right, exactly. Tell us what it's been like of the loss of that, of having to be digital over the last couple of years.
To be quite frank, it's been awful. We do this because we love our community. We love seeing these people. People would take time off work just so they could spend the week with us. And that you do, it's kind of cliche, but it's true. You really become family. You see these people, about their families and their husbands, and it was really sad to not be able to do that. But there are some ways where it did allow us to do things we were never able to do before. We could do Q&As with people who we would never have the financial ability to bring into the market. We were able to continue to show things to people when they actually needed it. So for us, that was sort of the silver lining in a place where it's difficult to find a silver lining. So while we do miss the people, we're so excited to have them back. There were ways that we could continue to bring programming. It was difficult as a programmer because films weren't being made in the numbers that were being made pre-pandemic. Yeah. So I
recognize that in Fort Lauderdale in the fall when I watched so many of your homemade movies that you personally made showing.
That wasn't. I always say, I think people think that I'm like a frustrated filmmaker or a filmmaker, and I'm not. I appreciate the art of film, and I know that I can't do it. Yeah. So I think my skills better lie where I am.
Yeah, well, before we talk about the festival and the films that you're presenting, specifically going through a pandemic and trying to reinvent the wheel of a ticket buyer and a digital ticket experience, it must have been financially really tough on Outshine. I mean, after all, you're not a big corporation and you don't have the ability like Coca-Cola to sit there forever. We can't sell our Cokes this week. We're okay. Outshine really needed that support that got interrupted.
They did, and we were so lucky that so many of our supporters, our individual donors, kept us alive and kept saying, we believe in what you do. We know this is going to end. I don't think anybody thought that it was going to end much later than it did, and still may not have ended. But they said, you're going to get back to doing things live and in person, and we're with you. So they continued their support. Many of the grants organizations did the same thing and continued their support. But it really was through the support of their doing and our individual donors, again, who just said, keep it going. And again, we were lucky that we were able to provide programming of any kind.
Yeah,
so again, it was difficult, and they're.
Well, the Outshine Film Festival has survived, and now it's beginning to thrive again, which is exciting. Now, in that vein, go through the program. It starts the 22nd, Friday night, and goes through May 1. Walk through the festival for us. What are the big things that we should be paying attention to?
Well, everything. We do have our gala spots, and that we call our opening night, which is Boy Blues, based on a wonderful seminal African-American book of 1994. And if you're a literature fan, it's really, really similar to the movie. So the book and the movie, I think you'll notice some of the, sort of the similarities. We do that at the Lyric Theater, which is part of the Black Archives. Mm-hmm. So it's sort of symbiotic that we are doing an African-American film at a place that was known on the Cotton Club circuit, and it was known for their sort of supporting of African-American artists who had no support.
Right.
Our centerpiece is the Botanical Gardens. So even though outdoor screenings are not necessary anymore, we love them. We love doing the drive-ins, and this is sort of an outdoor screening, very sort of relaxing, a Finnish film, girl picture, just kind of a cute, sexy women, but just a really unique and interesting story.
And when you mention that, let's make sure we get that in.
Sexy women?
Okay. But the diversity embracement. The Outshine Film Festival is not just gay men and the embracement of gay men. You're looking at broad embracement, trans, color, men, women.
Yes, thank you.
It's a commitment at the festival.
It is. We take pride in not only of gay men. It's not only beautiful gay men, although we do have that. It's bears. It's really all. It's younger. It's older, and we seek out films that specifically talk about the breadth and the variety and the experiences of all of our communities. Mm-hmm. So, and then trans films aren't always easy to find, but we make them. We don't make them. We make sure that we find them because it's important.
Yeah. And so you do the Botanical Gardens. How does the rest of the program?
And then closing night is at the Sandro Rivers, which again is another predominantly African-American theater company, but has a venue as well for film. So we're excited to be closing with a very fun. You don't often have action movies that are true action movies, like a Bruce Willis Die Hard, that kind of film. And this is Cop Secret from Iceland, where it's a very lots of things blow up, but they're also two men who love each other at the core. So it's we're happy to do that. And our two other spotlights, our women's spotlight, is a beautiful French film called Anais in Love, and that has a party to follow. And then our men's spotlight.
Wait, we have to party and watch the film?
We do.
Joe.
It's all, again, it's the breadth. Some people like that. Some people might prefer the party to the film. Some people might prefer the film to the party.
Or perhaps both.
But both. And that's what we give them the option and opportunity to do. And Lonesome is our men's spotlight film. And that's a hot, hunky Australian film. I'll leave it at
terrible.
that. I know, I thought you'd have trouble with that.
Terrible.
And it's also a really good film. I hate to use those adjectives, but they're true, but the film is also very great.
All right, well, you should use those because you got my attention.
There you go.
Joe, approximately how many films does the film festival and this go round in Miami?
We'll have over 80. So that shorts,
films.
We have 3 shorts programs as well. Shorts you never see.
Right.
Festivals are always a great way to see short films. And I always say, other people more than me, say, I like shorts because if you don't like it, another one comes in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
We like to think of it the other way. I'm going to have to watch, I'm going to have to edit what I say.
I know.
It's going to be an hour-long interview and I could say virtually nothing.
Yes, right.
But I like to look at it the other way but it's also sad in a short that you really like because then you only have 10 minutes of it.
Yeah.
So
now, I understand in this instance, many of the films are in person. That's new since pandemic broke out in January of 2020. And then you have a combination of hybrid where you can watch it also digitally.
Correct. All but about 10 of our films are available both in person and online. A few are just online, and then a few are just in person. Those are mostly the GALA spots. And a lot of that is based on distributor desire. Distributors during the pandemic weren't really sure what to do with their films. So they were like, I don't know whether we want to do virtual. And now they're starting to understand the sort of the place that virtual holds. And we think there are still people who may not be comfortable to come out into especially an indoor setting. So they're starting to, again, we want to be able to reach those as many people as we can with all of our films, and it's just, unfortunately, we can't do all of them in person. And
Joe, help somebody, a listener, a watcher that is listening to you right now in the Outshine Film Festival, the Miami edition. There's lots of conversation. My goodness, we have so many platforms now. There's Netflix and 54 others, and everyone, the predominant comment I hear about LGBT content is, oh well, we can watch it someplace. Tell us why a film festival for LGBT is important in this day and age.
And it goes back to something you mentioned earlier about it's always great to see that, to consume that content with people like you. You were sitting in a darkened theater with
there you go again.
Somebody, yeah, it was
but
you.
Got my
that was you.
Right.
Sitting in a darkened theater with somebody next to you who has the same sensibility.
Yeah.
They get it. They understand. They've been in that sort of situation, and they sort of, whether it's a feeling or whether it's an inside joke, they get it. And there's something about that. Also, many of our films, most of the films will eventually come on a platform, be it Netflix or Hulu, but not all. And others might take a very long time. So while yes, they could be available for consumption differently later, it's like really we are the first place to see it. And a lot of our films, they're the first place to see. We have a lot of North American premieres, we have a couple international premieres, a couple world premieres. So you're the first audience, not only first audience in Miami, but the first audience anywhere to see a film. And that's kind of exciting for some people.
Joe, I have to echo your observation with a story from my seat, because that was exactly what happened in Fort Lauderdale. I went to the Science Center in downtown Fort Lauderdale for Firebird. I had not heard of the film. I watched the film in IMAX. The film was absolutely awesome. It was just an incredible film. I'm sitting with hundreds and hundreds of LGBTQ people, and I thought it was interesting. Just 2 months ago, all of the big news, I'm reading an Out and I'm reading an Advocate. Wow, there's this great new film coming to the United States called Firebird, and I'm going, wait, the Outshine Film Festival debuted that 5 months ago. And I thought, there it is. That's why an LGBTQ film festival, especially a festival like Outshine, is so important, because you're going to get to see films with people that maybe you're eventually going to see in digital platforms, but you're going to get to see it in early and in a way that you want to consume it. And I was a perfect example of the success of Outshine.
And we had guests involved too, so that's always fun. It's sort of, guests are great because they can tell you, what their thought was behind either making the film or acting in the film. And
there were
it's
questions.
Really
the Firebird is about a fighter pilot in the Soviet Union, and being married and having a relationship with another soldier. And it was a beautiful film. And when they participated, people got to ask them questions about what their motivation of this kiss or this hug was. A very special opportunity in watching LGBTQ film that you can't get anywhere else.
Right.
You can't stop Netflix and say, wait, I got a question here. It doesn't work that way.
No.
At Outshine Film Festival, it does.
Yeah, and we're very proud of that. And we continue to have guests. And the other thing is, our guests almost always send us a letter back, an email, and say, your audiences are smart.
Yeah.
Your audiences really had, we get the same question.
Well, Joe,
but
I was
your
in the
audience,
audience.
It might have been your question.
It might have
They
been.
might have said, L was great. And some people are hesitant to ask questions, and I never get that, because they're there to hear what you have to say.
A festival is an interactive experience.
Absolutely.
So, be confident. Joe, last question. Help everybody understand. You want to participate in the festival, see the films, participate in the parties, meet the guests that come. How do they go about getting tickets for both in-person and digital?
The easiest way, not only to get tickets, but information on everything, is outshinefilm.com. And if they ever have any questions, there's, contact on there. I'm Joe at Outshine Film, and I'm going to get tons of emails now, but that's fine. We love interacting.
I'm sorry, that email address one more time is?
Joe at outshinefilm.com. No dates though, but I'm very happy to, again, we love film. We're very happy to, to engage with our audience, however that is, and we just love to see people.
Just one last reminder for all of you. We have been through the most dramatic and dire 25 months ever in LGBTQ history. We're living the history. Not since Stonewall has something so dramatic occurred in our community. And those that have taken it on the chin are LGBTQ 501c nonprofits, like the Outshine Film Festival. It's a cultural event unlike anything else here in South Florida, and it deserves your support. So reach out to that address one more time in terms of tickets.
Outshinefilm.com.
Outshinefilm.com. Joe Bilancio, Director of Programming. We can't wait. Miami edition coming. And you didn't say you liked Fort Lauderdale better, but I'll just assume that you meant that. And that's coming in October. Can I put those words in your mouth?
You can make whatever assumption you want as long as it's labeled as Al's assumption.
Yes, exactly. Well, I think you just did that quite clearly. Join us April 22nd to May 1. April 22nd opening night event and party, and closing May 1st, the Outshine Film Festival, Miami edition. You don't want to miss this. Joe, thanks a lot for being with us tonight at Queer News Tonight.
Thanks for having me.
LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure